Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this Wednesday's Wise Leader interview. I am absolutely thrilled to have Sherry Winn with us today. Sherry and I met at the Inner Circle Network at their conference where we were both delivering keynote speeches. Sherry is a wonderful speaker. She is a two-time Olympian, and she is a leadership coach. We are just very lucky to have her here today, and she's coming to us from Montana, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. And she let us know it's windy today, so we'll see if technology cooperates with us, but keep your fingers crossed. Yeah, exactly. Sherry, this show is all about wise leadership, and I would love for you to kick us off just telling us a bit about your leadership journey. I find everybody's journey is different, and it's wonderful for women to hear that, right? That no matter what path they take, everyone has an opportunity for leadership.
Oh, I agree. Leaders, what I've discovered is, you might have some innate leadership qualities, right? But if you don't work on those, they really don't mean anything. If you don't develop them, they just kind of will fall off the shelf, so to speak. But I was an athlete at an early age, and so really quickly understood games faster than anybody else. So if there's a new game introduced in physical education class, I'd be like, oh, I got it. I know what to do. I understood it. And so it was because I was the best, I was most often the person that everybody else followed. And of course, learning that I was the best didn't always mean that people would follow you. Important thing to note. It was really about how you develop those relationships, which took me quite a long time to discover as a young person. But the leadership path really led through, being an Olympian twice, and then turn around and being going into coaching at the collegiate level. And that's where I really learned, about leading people and how important it was to develop relationships, how important it was to urge people on to become better, not only as an athlete, because here's what I knew about coaching. Look, those young women were only going to play ball for 4 years. Four. Most of them would walk off that court and never, ever pick up a ball again. And so if all I taught them was basketball, I was really not teaching them anything. I wasn't giving them an opportunity to move forward in life. So we made certain that we were teaching life skills to move them forward, to help them shift, in their lives. And so today, when I get calls from players that I coached 20 years ago, and they say something like, oh my gosh, this one thing that you taught me really has made a difference in my entire life. That is where your leadership has made a difference.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. Um, I think that being a leader is not about being in the spotlight, but it's about your influence on others and bringing out the best in others. I think I love what you said about if I just taught them basketball, that wasn't enough. I wasn't preparing them for the world. And as someone who studied ballet very seriously, and I took classes with the Joffrey in Manhattan, and there is something that those disciplines really teach you
Mhm.
about discipline, about resilience, about um, the strive for excellence. And I think there are a lot of life skills in there, but I think you mentioned something really important about relationships. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it comes down to those relationships.
Absolutely. All business, I don't care what business it is, it's about relationships. And that's relationships with you and if you're a leader, and you and your staff, if you're you and your customers, you and your clients, you and your other leaders, it's all about relationships. And to me, and you and I have talked about this, but to me, this is all about you can't have a great relationship if you don't have a great relationship with yourself first. So
Mhm.
in order to be a good leader, and one of the things that I emphasize with all my, all the people that I coach, the CEOs and vice presidents, CFOs, CEOs, whatever, is that you have to develop that inner leadership by first learning about yourself, looking at the things that your limiting beliefs that you have, looking at the things that you consider obstacles in your past, looking at the things that you're really good at, looking at the things that you need to improve on, or maybe the things that that you just need to delegate and get off your plate. These are all these are all pieces of being a great leader. And what I've discovered is the leaders that I emulate, or that I want to emulate the most, and that I love working with, are the people who say, I want to be a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I know that those are the people that I attract into my coaching business. And when I talk about my business, I tell people, being a business owner is the most personal development work you'll ever do, because everything within you shows up in your business. And if you want to be
Mhm.
successful in your business, you've got to work on those things, whether it's imposter syndrome or self-worth, or not being able to take feedback, all those things, right? And it does show up. And it's funny because people in the past have asked me, like, what does being a psychologist have to do with coaching? And I think every everything, right?
Yeah.
Your motivation, your mindset, your all of it. And a lot
Mhm.
of times, and I know you experience this too. Clients come to you for one problem, and what they think they have to work on is very different than what they have to work on. And
Right.
so you may be helping them be a better leader, land a new job, or run their team better, or create a better culture. But it starts with the inner work first, about what's getting in the way of doing that to begin with.
Absolutely. You can give, I love it that you said, what does psychologists have to do with coaching? Well, when I was a coach, the first thing I thought was, man, the first thing I needed was a psychologist degree. Why was I taking all these other courses? What I needed to be taking was philosophy, psychology, right? I needed to learn how, all this other stuff. But you're right about, so many times that people think, well, I just need a formula for tell me how to delegate. And it's like, well,
Mhm.
if you might need to know how to delegate, but what's stopping you from delegating? What is that about? What is that obstacle about? What's the root cause, if you will? Because you can have because I can recite formulas, what are the 9 things you need to do to delegate the best way? I can go, what is a great 4-step method for learning assertive communication? What is like all I can do that. I can hand that out on plates, boom, boom, boom. But look, if that's not the thing that's stopping you, you can use the tools, but if you haven't found what the true root cause is, those tools don't work. So
Mhm.
you have to figure out the root cause. And so oftentimes, like you say, people think the issue is over here. And yes, yes, it is. But the underlying issue is right here. If you don't address that, this will never go away.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
It's why when I wrote a book in this past year, I know that you can read a lot of books, like what you're saying. These 9 steps, these 4 steps, we read them and then we put them on the shelf and we don't do anything with them, right? Or we do it for 2 weeks and we go back to our old ways. So when I wrote the book, I put a lot of exercises in it, journaling and getting
Mm,
to that root. It's kind of like having a little coach in your pocket.
right.
But it's also why I created the complete system, right? I did the workbook and the affirmation card deck and the meditation album,
Back.
because as you have to work on all those levels for change. And if it was just about giving someone some cookie cutter list, they wouldn't need a coach, right?
Right. I mean, there's, like you said, there's tons of books out there. And the first book that I wrote, Unleash the Winner Within You, a Success Game Plan for Business, Leadership, and Life. First book. So somebody reads it, they go like, this is a psychology book. And I'm like, yeah, right. Exactly. Because that's what it takes to be a good leader. Like you have to be able to do the work. And so much like your book that you're talking about. And I think we both have a similar title, by the way,
Yeah, I
right?
didn't realize we both had Unleash in the title. That says a
Right.
lot about our similarities, I think.
Because that's what it is. I mean, we have the potential within us. We just have to learn how to let it go, how to bring it forth and move it through us so that we can let it go. But the second book I'm currently writing also is on leadership, and it's the same thing. It's going to be more psychology. How can you? I mean, how can you not? How can you not address it? It's just the people that I've discovered are good leaders are the people that have really, really worked on themselves. And
Mhm.
they can, and they know, look, I'm not done. I'll never be done. I don't care how long I work. There's always another layer. There's something I didn't even know. there's a place that I'm working on that I didn't even know existed. And so we don't ever get it done. But the place to be, I think, as a great leader is to be able to know that you're a work in progress and enjoy the journey and celebrate the journey and love yourself through the process. That those are the leaders that I found have they're most connected to their teams, that people love to work for. Like they might not make the most money at these places, but they will not leave because they recognize, look, this is a once in a lifetime job. I'll probably never find another place that I can work like this where I'm so happy and so fulfilled and so valued. Well, that's the key. I mean, people talk about engagement, they talk about retention. No, it's like there's some formula that you got to plug in this algorithm. It's like, no, it's about you,
Mhm.
right? It's about you.
Yeah. I always say people work for people, not for companies. And when you're a powerful leader does not mean dictator. It does not mean, aggression. It means emotional intelligence, right? It means empathy. It means humility. It means being a good listener. And,
Mhm.
and those are the things, like you said, people will stay. People will say they're leaving because of money, but it's usually not about money, right? We use money
No,
as an excuse for a lot, a lot of things.
sure.
Um, but it's about that relationship and, feeling validated, feeling appreciated, feeling like you're a part of the team.
Hmm.
Um, that
Absolutely.
really that really inspires that loyalty, productivity, efficiency. And it's why I love positive psychology, right? And because it studies the people that are thriving, and it's not what we typically see, unfortunately, or think of
Right.
with corporate America or corporate leadership.
Hmm.
And it's why I like working in that area, because you can
Hmm.
really affect change.
Sure. Absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, it's just interesting that, I'm working with one CEO right now of a credit union, and it's very interesting that I was talking about motivation. And she's like, well, these are adults. They don't need to be motivated. And I'm like, well, well, I love the quote by Zig Ziglar who said that, people say that taking a bath doesn't like motivation doesn't last. They say motivation doesn't last. Neither does taking a bath. That's why you need to do it every day. And it's true. I mean, if you're not motivating yourself, and a lot of people don't, like they go motivate myself. Well, a lot of people don't have the daily habits to motivate themselves. So you as the leader have to be the person who is the one who is helping them. Like, what do we do to make you feel better? What do we do so that you feel valued? What do we do that enables you to grow here? What do we do to make you feel like you're making a difference? Like those are the things that I call motivation. Right? It's not like ha ha ha. That's like 2 seconds and gone.
Right.
It's a deeper level, but this is what leaders must do, and in order to do that, they must motivate themselves every day. They have to start with some sort of daily practices that they bring in that feels themselves. And I don't know of most leaders that I know have coaches or have had coaches. Like they're
Mhm.
constantly looking to continue that growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I feel like I do a lot of, habit formation with my clients, like you're talking about. And I'm a big believer in having a morning routine or ritual and an evening routine or ritual to help support your progress and to help, kick off that motivation, set the tone for the day, and then recap at the end of the day, what went
Sure.
well, what could use improvement, what will I do tomorrow
Mhm.
to for it to be different. And I think the best leaders do that. As you're saying, they work on that personal growth and they learn the new habits. And it's a little bit of wash, rinse, repeat, right? Because it's that repetition that gets things to stick.
Yeah, we're broke up for just about 15 seconds there.
Yeah.
So you said you think the best leaders are, I don't know, I'm assuming you said kind of habit formers or have habits that they do every day.
Yeah.
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 And it's interesting that they'll think the habit is about something to do with work. And I think the habit is about something to do with growing you. And you
Mhm.
can have habits about work too, but what are you doing to grow you every day? And that's what I'm interested in, because when I made leaps and bounds as a coach, it was because I turned inward. It's because I realized like there were pieces that were missing. I could see that like there's pieces that are missing. I'm not connecting to all of my players. Only the players are like-minded. Well, you're not going to find those very often, right? And you need to connect with all of them. I'm not reaching them at certain levels. I'm not getting everybody to play to their highest potential. What does that mean? How can I change this? And so some people would be surprised at the activities that we would do as a team. We had what we called a chalk talk every week, and it had nothing to do with basketball. Nothing. It would be like questions like, so how do your parents handle conflict?
Mm.
How do you handle conflict? Can you see that, tell me about your parents' conflict. Tell me about how you thought about your parents' conflict. Did you like it? Did you think that it resulted in good, in a good outcome? And then, okay, how do you handle conflict? And they'd be like, oh crap. And so then we'd talk about, well, what's a better way to handle conflict? I mean, these are the kind of things that we did that I think some other teams and coaches didn't do. I think more are doing it today than ever before,
Mhm.
but people didn't do stuff like that. And it's the same thing I tell CEOs. I'm like, are you teaching your people these skills that they don't have? Are you teaching them communication skills? Well, they should know it. They're adults. I'm like, they don't, you know, they
Yeah.
don't. They don't ask a question that I find to be pretty, well, I find it humorous. I think sometimes people find it humorous. I find it humorous. I ask them, how many of you in this room, when your parents had a conflict, did something like this? Just raise your hand. When your parents had a conflict, they said, hey, honey, let's sit down at the table. I'd really love to hear what you have to say. I'd like to find a way through this solution. How many of your parents did that? And I'll look around the room, 500 people in the room, and nobody raises their hand.
Right.
Because what do their parents do? They saw them do things like the silent treatment. I'm not going to talk to you for a week, or the temper tantrum, stop at the door, or the blame game. Not me, it's you. It's not me, it's you, right? Or I'm right, or I'm right. I've got to be right in the whole fight. Like they didn't have. So what they learned, this communication style is the same thing that they carry to work, and the same thing they're doing at work because they don't know any difference.
Mhm.
And then when we talk about relationships, you said it, I said it. If you don't have good relationships, which is all through communication, by the way, then things won't work.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, in the home I grew up in, it was very, sort of a 1950s mentality, and, there was a lot of "because I said so," right? I'm the parent, the hierarchy, and I never carried that into my therapy practice, but I found, um, in one of my early supervisory relationships, we were just butting heads, right? And this was a supervisee. And I really had this aha moment when I realized, oh my God, I'm carrying that in. And I'm like, because I said so, I'm your boss. Just, and of course, I didn't say it like that. But when we finally had a breakthrough, it was like we were both reacting to father stuff. She was pushing back on me like she would have if it was her father, and I was acting like my own father. And
Mhm.
it's all that stuff gets played out, especially in the office, because you become a family system and everybody takes on these different roles. And if you don't look at that stuff, yeah, you're going to enter into conflict, people who trigger you, and that stuff doesn't go away. But when you gain the insight and you can step back and go, oh, I know why this person is triggering me, then you get a choice, right? Until it's in your consciousness, you're just kind of doing what you've always done. The old neural pathways are firing, but once it raises into consciousness, then you get a choice. And then it's, what do you do with it?
Right. Well, that's back to the emotional intelligence piece you were talking about. The number one thing about emotional intelligence is the ability to be self-aware.
Mhm.
So, and then I read an article that said only about 5% of the population is self-aware, right? So you got 85% of the population who has no idea why this person triggers them, why this upsets them, why they say, act, do what they do. They have no idea. But you're right. As soon as it's at least raising your consciousness and you become aware of why that moment is, that second, then a lot of times you go back to the reaction because you know because it's what you've done always.
Mhm.
But as soon as you get curious about it, you start saying, it's really interesting. Like, why did I say that? And you reflect on it and you look at it and you're going, oh my gosh, like I have a choice. I don't have to react that way. I can do something different. I have different options here. That is a huge moment because most people, 85% of us, walk around in this like, your subconscious is running your program. You don't even know that you're hardwired for a program. You have no idea you're doing the program. You're on the treadmill. You're doing the treadmill thing. People piss you off. People make you mad. People da da da. And you're just like, they did it. They did it. They did it. And you have no idea. And that's where you funnel into that whole victim mentality where it's not my fault. They did it to me. And you blame outside events, other people or circumstances for why you are who you are. And then there's no possibility of ever getting a great relationship with other people.
Absolutely. It's why I wrote the book the way I did too. Because yes, there are external factors that can keep women down and out of leadership, but focus on what you can control, right? And so I wrote it from that perspective. Like you can control your thought patterns, you can control, how you choose to present yourself in the world. You can control coming over your obstacles like sabotage and imposter syndrome. And when we get stuck in focusing on what's out of our control, it's real easy to fall into that victim mentality and to just think like there's nothing I can do. And that's a real sense of hopelessness. It doesn't help anyone.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
You're so right. And I see it all the time. I mean, it's interesting because I was that person. Like I was that person who was a victim and felt hopeless. It's one of the things that drove me into my early like depression was not understanding that if I just learned to respond rather than react, if I just learned to focus on the controllable factors, if I just understood the power that I did have, instead of thinking everybody else, like everybody else. It was when I was an athlete, it was the officials, it was it was my coach, it was my teammates, it was like everybody but me, right? And when you give that all away and you feel like everybody else is, you're just a puppet on a string and they're pulling the strings, you're like, they're pulling your strings and you're kind of like, whoa, all the time. Well, man, how can you feel good? And
Mhm.
then when you feel bad, you take zero action. There is nothing that you just feel bad. So then you go into the tools.
Oh no. Hang on, everybody. I know she's going to come back. I know. I'm waiting on her every word.
Numbing. There we are.
You cut out a little bit there.
Yeah.
Said
I was just
you
talking
go
about
to the
numbing
tools.
yourself. Yeah, it's the wind is blowing so hard here. Numbing yourself out, right? So when you get into the victim mentality, there's a lot of people who go to numbing. And you can numb yourself through drinking. You can numb yourself through overexercising. You can numb yourself through watching too much TV. You just live in a numb state and you don't even know you're doing it because you're not meeting yourself, right? You don't want to meet yourself. It's so scary. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to look in the mirror. And look, Donna, I can't just go to somebody, oh, just look in the mirror and you'll figure it out. Like, because you know how hard that is. You know how hard it is.
Yeah.
But when we're able to reach into the things that we're control.
Yeah. You're breaking up again. So I'm just going to jump in there and say, I think I've seen a lot of that numbing out. Oh, you're
There we
back.
are. There we are.
Here we are. I was just adding
the wind. I can't control the wind today.
I know. Come on, Sherry, you should be able to control that wind.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that you and I have a lot in common about the way that we see leaders and the way that we, address our clients and the things that we think are the most important steps for any leader to take to really get
Mhm.
Come on.
Okay. You're back.
Every word we say though, in between, it's got to be awesome, right?
Right.
So anybody's listening, hang on for like 20 seconds because everything we say in between these little breaks, they're got to be awesome.
Right? It is. It is. Yeah. Speaking to the numbing out piece, I think I've seen a lot of that during COVID, where it's really hard for people. We're in this isolation and it's hard to just sit with ourselves. I was just talking about COVID and the amount of numbing out that has happened during COVID, where you're seeing, people just drinking more, binging on Netflix, eating more. And I'm not criticizing anyone. It's just that I think that with so many other things taken away for us, A, we're looking for some kind of pleasure, but B, there's so much more quiet time with ourselves. And that can be really hard. I think the wind is really kicking up over there. But I also agree with Sherry that we do see leadership in the same light, and we really take it from this inside out approach. And we both really believe that all of this is within you already. It's just about, having a coach that can help draw it out for you. I heard it said really well one time by a marketing friend of mine. You can't read the label from inside the bottle, and it's really challenging to evaluate ourselves without having an outside perspective.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. Very, very, very true.
Yeah.
Such a wise woman and a wise leader that you are.
Well, I appreciate that. And it is always a work in progress, and I'm always learning. I have the utmost respect for you, Sherry, and I'm so grateful that you came on the show today. And we will definitely have to do this again when it's a less windy day. So maybe maybe this summer we can have you back on again, because I know this was an invigorating conversation for me. And I always love talking with like-minded coaches in leadership, and love talking about leadership. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Sherry.
Well, I think that anytime we talk about leadership, to me, it's connecting to, growth. And as we do that, as we talk about growth, and as we're willing to grow, and there's no judgment in that. I think that what happens is people judge themselves and then they, beat themselves up. But there's no judgment in it. There's just, recognizing as a human being that we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to get it all done. And it's not an excuse. It's not like I'm going to use it. Well, this is because I'm a human. It's not that kind of excuse. It's just a realization that, as humans, we will make mistakes.
Mhm.
So what your power is how fast you're willing to learn from that mistake and grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think self-awareness is not an excuse to stay stuck. You don't say, well, I can't do anything about it. This is who I am. It's the opportunity for choice and for solutions.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
We should do a book together. What is this thing? What?
Oh, I love that idea. I love that idea. We will seriously have to talk about that. And I think we should be doing some corporate trainings together as well. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there, given our symbiotic approaches, but different experiences that we bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, belief in the same thing. And I just believe that there's just great opportunity for people who believe that there's always greatness within,
Hmm.
and I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that there's always greatness within.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I talk about in the book, it's really important for women to start collaborating instead of competing, and to really focus on lifting each other up. Because I do believe as one woman elevates, we all elevate, and it's for the good of
Absolutely.
all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we need to believe that there's enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough. If I have something, it doesn't mean that you can't have it too. Like that's the lack mentality, not the abundant mentality. And it's just the people who live an abundant mentality they're not like, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine.
Right.
They don't act or behave that way. They just say, there's plenty and there's always enough. There's
Mm-hmm.
always enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And
think
have
there's always enough.
gratitude, right? And have gratitude for having
Hmm.
enough.
Hmm. Yep. That's part
Yeah.
of your habit is the gratitude journal.
Yep. Yep. One of the important routines, whether it's morning or night or both.
Yes, it is
Right.
an important routine. You're training yourself to see the good. You're training yourself to believe in the good. You're training yourself to take action steps because you can see the good that's happened. You're
Mhm.
thankful for that, right? You're feeding the energy that surrounds you. And people like to be around people who have good energy.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk into a room, it's poor energy, like two people have been fighting, they've been fighting, you're like, oh crap, you walk out of the room, you don't want to stay in that energy. But
Yeah.
you walk around somebody and you can feel like how happy they are. You feel the peace they have. You're like, man, I just want to cozy up and take some of this stuff. Like I want to be there. I want to be in that space. So gratitude does that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps rewire your brain to spot the positive since our brains are wired for the negativity bias from evolution. It's a great way to start rewiring your brain for something different.
Mhm.
And your energetic field extends about 6 feet out of you. And so, yeah, so think about that impact that you can have on others.
Right. It's so funny because when you say that, it's like when I was coaching and I would get ready for a game, I knew that my energy had to be great. I knew that I had to bring the right focus, the right energy, the right belief system, because my players were going to feed off of whatever it was that I brought. And so I had to work really hard every day. Like the game time is coming. They have to feel my belief in them. They have to feel that I'm okay with this. They have to step into my energy. And so I would, I mean, literally, like, I'm like, okay, before game time, I'm like doing all this, hocus pocus, what do you want to call it? Like, I'm really into the vibe of sharing that good energy. And I knew when I didn't have it, I'm like, oh crap, I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't have it. They're going to feel it. I got to get it because they were just going to do exactly what I did.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, and not did, but I mean, felt. They were going to do exactly what I felt.
Yeah.
If I didn't think we could do it, then they would feel that right off of me.
Hmm.
So getting that good energy, that good feeling energy, and giving that to them was so important. So people would be crazy. They'd go, we'd be warming up. I'm like, our team is not in the right place. And they go, what? I go, I know they're not in the right place. We need to get them in the right space. And they're like, what are you gonna do? I said, I don't know, but I'm gonna get them there. So I would like walk out in the middle of the warm ups and do like some kind of talk or da 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 da, and sometimes crazy stuff. Like they would, people go, that coach is crazy, and I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I can feel their energy, and we're not in the right place. We've got to get to the right place energetically to have this game. And I
Hmm.
really believe that's true of any leader. You can't walk into a room and you think that your company is going to have to file bankruptcy and convey a good message. Like you have to believe that you can make it. You have to tell your team members, like, we can, it's going to be a challenging road. We can do this together. I believe in you. And they got to feel that from you. You can't just, BS your way through it because they'll know that you're lying. You have to feel it as
Hmm.
you're saying it to get people to move with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my clients will often say to me that I get them to believe what's possible for them because I can see it so clearly. And one of my strengths, if anyone here has taken the Clifton strengths, is futuristic, and it's that ability to see what's possible in the future and ability to move people towards that. And I think that's a powerful thing as a coach. Hello. Well, I'm thinking we should probably wrap it up, but I was just saying that to piggyback on what you said, though, um, that often my clients will remark that one of the things that I do is help them believe in what's possible. Like they can see it through my eyes, and my enthusiasm and faith in them gets them to see it too. And I think
Absolutely.
that's really, really powerful as a coach, and that um, it feels good to be able to give that to someone.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, is that everybody wants to know like the number game, like how do we double our productivity? How do we get people more engaged? What's the algorithm? What is the, and it's like, okay, let's get those numbers out. That let's talk about you. Let's figure out how we make you the best version of you, and then those things will fall into place.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the simple stuff. That's the simple. That's just so simple.
Right. Right. Well, thank you so much, Sherry, for coming on today. And as I said, I'd love to have you back on again. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and your wise leadership journey. If anyone wants to contact Sherry, I'm going to put some her LinkedIn information and her website in the comments. And Sherry and I will look through the comments. If you have any questions or anything, we're happy to respond.
Thank you so much, Donna. Thank you for being who you are and continuing to, grow those leaders into places and people that they need to be, and not into places, but people they need to be, so that we have, more higher energy and people are more joyful and happy. I mean, because that's the ultimate goal, right? I don't
Mhm.
care who you talk about. They go, what, the goal is to double this or to make this. Why do you want to do it? Well, it'll make me happy. Okay, well, let's make you happy, and then you can do that stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. My apologies to the wind. And so we did it anyway. We made it through, and that's one of the things
We
a great
made
leader
it happen because we're solution focused and we don't give up.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Many blessings.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna. Take care. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.